guys, today's video is brought to you by Patron Blades. I can't wait to tell you about them after the video, so stick around. It's a great way to support the channel. But in the meantime, we've got a problem on our hands. Now, I don't like saying this, but Star Wars is dying. More fans are losing enthusiasm for the films, and they have less hope that anything good will come of Disney taking control. The movies are progressively getting worse, and fewer people are going to see them. If this continues for much longer and they keep failing to make any substantial profits on these next few films, we might just not see any more Star Wars. But real quick, I want to tell you what I think would prevent this, as well as give the franchise and the fans the boost we all need right now. After you hear me through, I want to listen to what you think about this. So listen closely, and we'll all talk about it in the comments afterwards. Personally, I think Edgar Wright needs to make a Star Wars film. They've messed up too many things with these last few Star Wars movies, and I'm tired of having these unqualified directors try and make films for the largest film franchise in all of history. Rian Johnson had only made 3 movies prior to The Last Jedi, and even that bombed. Now he's got his own trilogy we get to not look forward to? And Ron Howard? He makes grounded recaps of historical events and people, which is great and all, but it's not who we need to make a Star Wars film. What new does he bring to the table? What's unique about him? Even J.J. Abrams did a decent job with The Force Awakens, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what he does with Episode 9. It kind of sucks that he has to piece together the story after having Rian Johnson jump in the middle of it and throw everything that was pre-established out the window, but my curiosity still wants to know where the story will go. We expect certain things from certain genres, like zombie movies will be action-packed with jump scares, and with Star Wars we expect action, adventure, and drama, but these things shouldn't limit the director's creativity and define his style. It's all about the story and how you present it, and Edgar Wright is the king of bringing creativity to the screen. In his movie Shaun of the Dead, we got to see his take on a zombie movie through a struggling couple's relationship. In Baby Driver, we get to see a high-speed heist movie through the eyes of a music fanatic. Another good example of originality and creativity is Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok. Those movies were both so different from all the other films in their genre. They told the superhero story through different elements that we've never seen before, and it worked. You can tell the directors behind them had genuine passion for the stories and their characters, whereas we didn't necessarily see that in the last few Star Wars films. Edgar Wright is the person that could bring enough creativity to the table to create another true hit Star Wars movie. He takes simple mundane scenes and finds interesting ways to do them through the full range of abilities of telling a story and delivering humor. He makes every scene its own thing and gives it the attention it deserves. And this next thing is one of my biggest personal issues with the most recent Star Wars movies, but unlike them, Edgar Wright specializes on letting the scene tell itself. Just by watching the opening scene of Baby Driver, we can see that we're starting out front of a bank in Atlanta, and we see a car pull into the frame. The driver is joined by 3 solemn characters dressed in black trench coats with bandanas around their necks. They each grab a bag from the trunk, and as they start walking towards the bank, they pull their bandanas over their faces, which clues in anyone who didn't already figure out that this is a bank robbery. And this is only 30 seconds into the scene, and no one has said a word. If you've seen any of the recent Star Wars films, you know they do the exact opposite. Characters are always telling the audience what's going on or how skilled a person is at a thing, or even telling us what we missed instead of letting us figure it out by watching the story through the scene. This is one of the most lazy writing techniques out there, and they're using it non-stop in the biggest franchise there is. I want to see a talented director artistically tell a compelling Star Wars story, and I think Edgar Wright is the man for the job. There's literally no dialogue for the first 6 minutes of Baby Driver, and it's one of the most exciting scenes in the whole movie. And he's so good at building up the protagonist and making them relatable to the viewer by having them go through key pivotal moments in the story that in turn makes the audience feel for that character. We can actually develop emotions around them and feel connected to them, which in turn makes for a better movie than what we've been getting with these last few films. But Edgar Wright's unique style and use of music, jump cuts, long takes, sound effects, and other little details are all part of what makes him stand out as such a great director. Music is a key component of his movies, so much so that it doesn't just complement a scene, but it's what drives the scene forward. Rather than being a depiction of real life, his films move like a musical performance, not just because of the songs, but also because of each perfectly timed sound effect, every character's movement. Each little detail is perfectly in rhythm with the next, and it makes the movie just flow beautifully. There's no such thing as silence in his movies, there's always something in the background. He's so incredibly creative that sounds have dominance over the images in this film, which isn't usually the case. This man uses sound in favor of movement to where, again, we don't have to be told what's happening, we can hear what's happening. And some of these details are so subtle that most people don't blatantly notice them, but they go into our brain and they grab our attention and make us subconsciously find the movie appealing. He just brings so much creativity to the table, I think it'd be really refreshing to see his talent go into producing a Star Wars film. As much as I'd love to give Rian Johnson our money for an entire trilogy's worth of bad Star Wars movies, I'd rather give my hard-earned money to Edgar Wright and get a quality movie. This could be what we need to spark the fire in other directors to develop their own unique style more and put more effort into making good content. It also set the bar much higher for all the movies that had to follow this. The fans would get some of that genuine excitement back, and we'd look forward to seeing the movies instead of walking into the theater knowing they were going to flop. But Edgar Wright might not be the only man that can create this spark. There are a few other really talented directors that we've gotten the opportunity to see on the big screen lately. In a world now saturated with franchise films, it takes a lot more for original movies to stand out and be considered a success. But every now and then, we'll see one film come out of nowhere and smack us right across the face with how good it is. A good example of this is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy, a story about some space bandits that saved the galaxy told through some old school music and becoming a family. It was refreshing to see in what we had come to expect from the Marvel superhero genre, and it worked better than anyone had expected. Take Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman: The Secret Service. It took a normal spy story and told it through a kid who was a thief and a dropout, and it gave the underdog a chance at proving himself and becoming the hero. Not to mention, the fights in that movie were absolutely mental. Can you imagine a Star Wars film with some of the hand-to-hand combat we see in Kingsman? Real quick, so after the fact, I looked it up, and the guy that did the stunts on this movie, Brad Allen, he's actually done the fights for a bunch of other movies with great fights, and I was like, wow, maybe Disney just needs a better stunt coordinator to up the action. And then I saw this. Yeah, apparently he did do the stunts for a Star Wars movie. And now that I think about it, the fights weren't necessarily bad in Solo, they were actually pretty good. I just wasn't attached to any of the characters' outcomes after the fight, so I didn't care who was going to win. So I guess it doesn't necessarily matter how good the action is, but it's more about the story and how you present it. So sorry for interrupting, but I found that interesting and wanted to tell you, but anyways, back to the video. The biggest risk with letting Edgar Wright make his own Star Wars film is that it'd have to make more than the studio put into it, as well as have the studio trust his direction. The main reason big studios don't make as many original movies as they do franchise ones is because of the risk. It's all about risk management. For a successful original film, you have to get something that's commercial, but also have something new and original enough that people will be excited for it. Keep in mind, you also have to get the cast on board and make sure it doesn't cost too much so the risk isn't as high. But this is a Star Wars movie we're talking about. We expect to see space battles and lightsabers and other things that usually require a lot of heavy CGI. That's all hard to do on a $100 million budget, right? Well, yes, to an extent. I think Edgar Wright could honestly do just fine in the Star Wars universe if he had to keep a low budget. It would definitely cost more than Baby Driver, but I think he could tell a small story in this universe at a reasonable budget in contrast to the other films. The main thing is that if Disney were to hire him, they'd have to be willing to take the risk of giving him a character or an event and letting him write his own screenplay around it, because he needs to feel passionate about whatever story he's telling, and he can't do that with big executives breathing down his throat and telling him how to do his job. I need to see an Edgar Wright Star Wars film, and sooner the better. I think he'd really inspire other directors that took on Star Wars movies and shows to step their game up and be more creative, and that's what could save this franchise right now. Can you imagine watching a Falcon dogfight shot like the first chase scene of Baby Driver? The majority of the shots of the chase are shots of Baby or his car, and the scene is literally built around the character. If we saw anything close to this in Solo, we would have felt much more connected and attached to this new Han. All the quick cuts and interior shots of the characters mixed with high energy music would have made for the coolest dogfight ever. I would have actually exploded with joy. Plus, the director shows us through Baby's actions how skilled of a driver he is, whereas in Solo, Ron Howard just had Han and all the surrounding characters just constantly reiterate how great of a pilot he is, and this annoyed the crap out of me. I just wanted for once the characters to stop trying to tell the audience how good they were and just show us. Do something cool, it's not that hard.
I'll try spinning, that's a good trick.
But we have to think about the fact that no one wanted a Han Solo movie. Part of why Han Solo was so cool was the mystery behind the character. I mean, is this the same thing with the other characters we think we want movies for? I wouldn't mind a movie about Obi-Wan or Darth Maul, or especially Jango Fett. But what if unimaginative directors make poor movies about them and just ruin our favorite characters? What if instead they let Edgar Wright introduce a new character to the universe? They would probably have to set down a few slight guidelines, then just hand the reins over to him. And that would require a lot of trust on Disney's part, and I don't know if they could handle something like that. Can you imagine if they let him write a film about a young pod racer or maybe some fighter pilots? I think that would be so cool to see, and I really hope he makes a Star Wars movie someday. There's countless reasons I think Edgar Wright has what it takes to save the slow crawl downwards this franchise is doing, but the only problem lies with Disney. They would need to somewhat trust the director and not insist on having their way with every single little detail. This exact thing happened when Christopher Miller and Phil Lord were filming Solo. They're really good at doing comedies and they wanted the actors to improv, but they had bad actors that couldn't improv, and they ended up getting fired because Lawrence Kasdan didn't want his script improvised. He wanted it word for word and didn't trust the directors with taking any leeway. Which doesn't make our case look good, but hey, I'm just here to share my ideas with you guys as we sit together as a community with our fingers crossed hoping Disney will listen to us. And I appreciate you guys listening to what I have to say. Now it's your turn. I want you to head down to the comments and tell me what you think of Edgar Wright or another outstanding director taking on a Star Wars movie. But before that, I want to say a big thank you to Patron Blades for supporting the channel by sponsoring this video, and this actually gives you guys the opportunity opportunity to support me as well. Patron Blades is an awesome way to get razors sent to your door and at the same time support your favorite creators. You simply choose a plan and you'll get high quality razors sent to you every month. But here's the cool part, they give half the profits to the actual creator. So it's like you're supporting me as well as getting something that you would have just gotten from the store anyways. But don't get me wrong, these razors are much higher quality than what I used to get at the store. They're hands down the best razor I've ever shaved with and was by far the smoothest shave I've ever had. And I didn't even cut myself. I usually end up doing a goof and nicking myself, but not with this razor. In fact, I stopped using all other razors since they sent me mine. So if you'd like to sponsor me, I'm going to put the link down in the description. Head over to Patron Blades and use my sponsor code MichaelJ after you pick the plan that best suits you. I really appreciate you stopping by to watch the video and can't wait to see what you guys have to say in the comments. And I wasn't sure, but I thought I'd say something real quick. If there's any blogs that follow me, can you please DM me, tweet me on Twitter? I want to start being a part of blogs. I absolutely love them, and I would love to contribute to an article or talk about certain things in videos. Please hit me up in the comments or tweet me at MichaelJ YouTube. And I can't wait to be back next week with a video that I'm so excited to make. I can't wait to show you guys, but in the meantime, I will see you in the next video. Peace.
East side with it. 7 got a bag in the club, hooked up.